Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another pro-revenge Reddit video. In our first story, employees' lunches are their personal property. Let's jump right in. Nobody likes a lunch thief, and I had one of the most aggressive at my office. There were rumors for a few months leading up to the inciting incident of someone going around and taking people's lunches. Just about every day, someone different would complain that their lunch was missing. It even happened to me once or twice, but I figured, hey, it's a big office, a few people are probably just careless and grabbed the wrong lunch and are too embarrassed to bring it back, or someone else packs their lunch and they don't know what's in there, so it's not obvious they have the wrong one, or whatever. Most people just brought brown bags with their names on it anyways, or identical Rubbermaid Tupperware with a little piece of labeled tape on the side. It was easy enough to mix it up. I had accidentally grabbed a wrong lunch once or twice, but I'd noticed before I got it open. I thought I was just more careful, or even just not as busy as some other people in the building. However, other people weren't as forgiving, and a quorum made complaints to HR. They were blown off. Personally, at the time, I thought it was all much ado about nothing. But then it began. My wife enrolled in a French cooking class online, and just about every day I was bringing fancy gourmand leftovers in for lunch. You'd think I was picking up a to-go bag from a Michelin-starred bistro on the way in each morning. She really threw herself into the coursework. There were no problems for about 2 weeks, maybe 3, until one day my lunch went missing. Considering what delicacies I had to look forward to, I was pretty miffed, but I did a once-over around the break room and didn't see anyone eating my lunch, so figured someone grabbed my bag by accident earlier, saw how good things looked, and realizing it was their lucky day, didn't bring it back to the fridge. I wrote the mysterious stranger off as a butthole, but accepted the loss and looked forward to dinner that night instead. The next day, I write my name on my lunch in extra bold lettering, jam the bag into the back of the fridge, and feel peace of mind. I get there, come break time, nope, it's gone. I was pretty upset, but I figured it was a stroke of bad luck and left it at that. What else could I do? However, third day, out of an abundance of caution, I kept my lunch at my desk. A pain, because I had to eat it fairly early in the day to avoid spoilage, but at least I'd know where it was. I got up to take care of some business down the hall, and when I came back, yep, my lunch was gone. Unfortunately, that didn't help me narrow it down much at all, because my desk is centrally located, so everyone's constantly passing by. At that point, there was no possibility of the theft being arbitrary, so I approached HR and filed a complaint. Their response, practically verbatim, was, "Employees' lunches are their personal property and the company is not responsible for lost or stolen personal items." The following day, my wife packed a cream-based soup that really had to be refrigerated. I was passing by the break room to check on my lunch practically every 5 minutes. Somehow, it still managed to disappear. I was irate at this point and returned to HR and really blew my top. The best they could do was send a memo around about remembering to check the name on your lunch when you remove it from the fridge. But they made it very clear that it was a routine memo and in no way related to my complaints, which were not their jurisdiction. So, not an admission of responsibility because my lunch was my own personal problem. The only suitable alternative to packing a lunch available in the building are these wretched shrink-wrapped ham and cheese sandwiches from a vending machine. They've been marinating in the heat for God knows how long, and the bread is as stale as corkboard and the meat is rancid and there's gluey mayo smushed into the center. It's a relic of the old office tenants, I'm pretty sure. I vented daily to my wife, but her only idea was to start bringing a regular sandwich and apple again to dissuade the thief and get him to move on to other lunches. So, determined to prevent this low-life scum from downgrading the quality of my lunch, I hatched an elaborate plan. Then the pandemic hit and I forgot all about this whole saga. I worked remotely for months and months. Then we returned, and after all that had happened globally, this was the last thing on my mind. But I got to the break room the first day back, frustrated from having to wear a button-up and tie after months of working in pajamas, sore from my desk chair and exhausted from small talk, only to find my lunch was gone. This was a particularly sore point because my wife and I divorced between my last lunch at work and the present one, so I did not appreciate being reminded of any past threads involving her. I pretty much flew into a blind rage at that point, especially seeing that stupid, worthless memo about checking the lunch bag names posted in the break room, feeling so helpless and so hungry and so alone as it was me and my lunch against the world. I stormed out and was determined to return the next day with a plan. So I came in the following day with an empty lunch bag, and I checked closely to be sure no one was watching, and I switched the contents of the HR person's lunch bag into my bag. So now their lunch appeared to be my lunch. They'd packed a regular brown bag, so I just discarded that and I left, and I waited. I knew this was a pretty big gamble because it was contingent on the theory that the thief was avoiding me while having lunch, but not wary of anyone else, so would eat out in the open if there was no risk of bumping into me. So I made a big show of going around the office announcing that I was heading out for a meeting and I wouldn't be back until at least 3 p.m. I even went to the trouble of moving my car out of the lot to a space 2 streets over, where I then sat in my car and worked remotely for several hours before sneaking into the building up the back stairway. I then sat in the stairwell just outside the break room where you can hear chatter but can't be seen. And after about 20 to 30 minutes of waiting, I heard it. The sweetest sound I'll ever hear in the office. "What the heck, Kyle? That's my lunch." "Nah, it's not your name on the bag. Give me that." I'm assuming HR grabs the bag and sees my name. Yeah, let's head to my office for a chat. The HR rep later called me in as well and said they were aware of my break room hijinks, but it was obvious that the point still came across loud and clear. They warned me that it was a violation of policy to move another employee's lunch. It took every ounce of self-control for me to keep from retorting, "I thought our lunches were our personal property and the company was not responsible for them being lost or stolen." They informed me they'd located the thief and things would be handled accordingly. But better than whatever write-up they might be able to issue Kyle, his reveal as the lunch thief occurred in front of the whole break room. So word quickly spread as to who had been stealing everyone's lunches earlier last year, and he is now the office pariah. He was in line for a promotion. The promotion is indefinitely off the table. And I also earned brownie points for exposing him, though more than I'm satisfied with are being attributed to HR. At the end of the day, though, I didn't do this for credit or even the sweet, sweet, sweet revenge. I did it to get my lunches back. Story number 2, stealing from my locker. Enjoy your trophy. One of the recent posts here reminded me of a story from my father. English is not my mother tongue, so please ignore my mistakes in writing. My father worked in a factory in Eastern Europe, and the event occurred somewhere in the 1980s. I know how weird it looks now in the 2020s, but at the time, it was pretty common that workers in the factory would come to work drunk or they would drink alcohol at work. My father was not much different, and he would occasionally bring a bottle of brandy and keep it in his locker. These lockers were pretty easy to access without a key. You would need just a screwdriver or some piece of metal, and the door would be easily bent and returned to the original form afterwards. The factory was working in shifts, and when you came in the next day, you would just notice that someone opened your locker and something was missing that you left inside the day earlier. As my father was bringing quite good booze into work, it would be missing the next day. After who knows how many times his booze was stolen, he had had enough of it and he decided to set a trap for the thief. The brandy my father usually brought into work was a color similar to whiskey due to being matured in oak casks. He took an empty bottle to the toilet and filled it with his urine and locked it back into his locker and went home after his shift was over. As shifts were slightly overlapping, there was no break in the factory process. The next day when he would come to work, People from previous shifts were still there. He came to his locker and noticed that bottle was completely missing. He came out to the workspace and loudly asked if anyone knows what has happened to the bottle with urine in it from his locker. He said that he had to go for a medical check as he might have some urinary infection and he had to bring morning urine, but he had forgotten it in his locker the day earlier. One of the guys turned red and started yelling at my father. How dare he leave urine in a bottle labeled as brandy, that someone could have mistakenly drank it and get seriously sick. After that, my father's locker was not robbed ever again, and that guy had gotten a new nickname, Piss Drinker. This is John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe and make sure you click on the notifications bell so that YouTube will actually show you my videos. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.